of two robbery sprees that occurred both across the south, southeast, and northeast portions of Minneapolis. In total, we are investigating at least 13 robberies and one car theft that we believe are related and part of two coordinated crime sprees. The first crime occurred early Sunday morning and involved 5 armed robberies over a 15-minute span in southeast and northeast neighborhoods. The second spree began on Monday evening and continued into the night with 8 additional armed robberies, including a violent carjacking. In both of these cases, suspects operated in groups, often believed to be 3 to 5 individuals, using stolen vehicles to target victims in public spaces. Several victims were physically assaulted and in some cases pistol whipped. We have identified consistent patterns and similarities in suspect descriptions and vehicles involved. Our investigators are working to determine whether the 2 sprees are connected and believe the suspects involved may be juveniles that are already known to law enforcement. These patterns are deeply concerning. They create fear in our neighborhoods and are completely unacceptable. We are treating these cases with urgency and commitment across the department. Leads are being actively pursued. I want to be clear, these are very dangerous crimes. And while we're working hard to bring these individuals responsible into custody, we know that accountability doesn't stop there. The entire juvenile justice system must play a role in ensuring there are appropriate consequences for youth who are harming others and themselves, and effective resources available for them. Here's a brief summary of these incidents. On Sunday, March 23rd, from 2:42 to 2:57 a.m., 5 armed robberies occurred in a concentrated area of southeast and northeast Minneapolis. Suspects were seen arriving and fleeing in what is described as either gray or gold sedans. 1 victim was assaulted. Yesterday, between 5:45 and 11 p.m., a black Kia Sportage was stolen and then involved in 8 armed robberies across south and southeast Minneapolis. Multiple victims were assaulted and pistol whipped. 1 silver BMW was stolen following a violent carjacking. Suspects in both sprees are described as wearing black hoodies, jeans, and athletic shoes. A female suspect was reported in several incidents. Finally, we are asking for the public's help. If you have any video footage, doorbell camera recordings, or any information related to these incidents, please contact us through the MPD tip line or through Crime Stoppers. Even a small detail may help us make an arrest. We do have a video I want to key up for you. I think we'll do that first and then we'll take questions.
This is the second one, hold on. Come back to that.
Those are milestone camera?
This is milestone camera, yes. And I will try to have these up to YouTube fairly quickly.
This is last night?
So this is last night. We don't have video for the first one. This is last night around 10:23. You'll see the BMW come down and do a U-turn. They are what we believe casing the neighborhood, shopping for victims. So this is at 10:23. That is the carjacked BMW. No plates, front or rear. And I think it's within about the same minute. You'll see them. What I'm going to show you now is it looks it's almost like an attempted robbery, but it kind of shows the tact or the stories they use as they're going around the city. You'll notice the victim will be walking, but watch the bottom of the screen first. You'll see them discard some of the things they had stolen previously. This is the BMW in the lower left. So that's about the extent of what we can show you, but that at least show you what it's like to be walking down the street and have somebody pull up like that, door opens, and people are jumping out at you. In this case, I'm not quite sure why they didn't finish the robbery, but there you have an idea.
And on your YouTube within the hour for us?
I'm going to do my best.
Thank you very much, sir.
And the first one occurred at, it's from the camera that is at 10/24/13. I'll label it. Let's just scramble.
So just to be clear, 2 robbery sprees over the last 2 days, a number of crimes that we know, that we believe are all related by the same individuals. There has been a lot of work going on. Last night, Hennepin County Sheriff's deputies pursued one vehicle where 2 juveniles that are very, very active in these crimes were apprehended. However, we do not believe those 2 juveniles are involved in this particular spree. Additionally, after the carjacking of the BMW within that same area, Minneapolis police officers began a vehicle pursuit of a similar vehicle and made arrests from that. However, those individuals are also not involved in this particular spree. We have a number of leads that we are following, significant evidence, and I am confident we will have an arrest soon, and we are working to actively identify the remainder of the individuals involved. So that's why it's important for anyone in the community that may have information relevant to who these kids are to please let us know, even anonymously. Any questions?
Chief, I mean, I'm hearing Second Precinct, and I don't think of Second Precinct as being a hotbed for this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, is that what's kind of setting us apart?
No. Yesterday's incidents were all in South Minneapolis, except the last one, and then this attempt that we showed you the video of. Sunday's incidents were in a very, very short 15-minute time period in Southeast and Northeast Minneapolis. But again, this is something that we have seen, particularly over the last year when we do have these robbery sprees. It tends to be in the 2nd Precinct as well as in the 5th Precinct, South Minneapolis.
You're pretty sure it's all juveniles, is that right?
Don't know if they are all juveniles. I would say at least teenagers. I think one we're pretty sure is a juvenile, based on who we suspect. But yes, and this has been the ongoing problem we've seen over the last year. We have done a whole lot of outreach to the juveniles who are most active. Our investigators go out at night. They go out on the weekends. They have developed relationships with a lot of these parents. One of them they spoke to last night is fit to be tied, that her kid was in a stolen car again. And we are doing all that we can to intervene. We have seen some success in recent months, but these last 2 days with these sprees starting up again are definitely very concerning.
So to clarify, it sounds like there are 3 stolen cars involved at least, and maybe 1 was recovered?
Yeah, so we had a black Kia Sportage that was stolen at 5:45 last night. We believe that's the vehicle used in at least the first 3 robberies. Then there was a carjacking of a silver BMW. That's why police officers in the 2nd Precinct began pursuing a similarly described vehicle that fled from police, but was not the same one. So 2 vehicles in the spree from yesterday, and then it would obviously be a separate vehicle that was used on Sunday, because both of those vehicles were taken during the spree yesterday.
But it's possible the same group of individuals were involved in all
It's
of
the same
this?
descriptions. We believe they are the same.
How many suspects total did you say?
4. Yep. 3 male and 1 female.
I know you said likely juveniles. I mean, there's been a range of, we've seen people as young as like 10 years old. I mean, how old are these guys? Are they driving age?
Teenagers, I would say. I don't have confirmed. I know there is one person. There's one person that we are trying to arrest right now.
So you've identified at least
One person, yep. And we're working on the others. Yep.
You mentioned that they're known to law enforcement. Is that from previous offenses or perhaps MPD programs?
At least one of these individuals is involved that we know, and another one that we suspect. And there is a range. So I would say the most at-risk juveniles tend to be kids that have a variety of police contacts. So it's both as child protective cases, missing persons reports, as well as being arrested for joyriding, being in a stolen car, or those kinds of things, even in some cases for gun offenses. Those tend to be the most at risk. And then a lot of times, from what parents tell us, you have younger kids or kids that are not involved that then get caught up in this stuff because they're being influenced by those more active, oftentimes older kids in the neighborhood.
So far, investigation seems to point towards these juveniles fitting those parameters.
Yes. Yep.
Is it remarkable that you've got a city of 400,000 people being held at bay by a handful of teenage kids?
We have had, thankfully, a pretty dramatic decrease in the amount of juvenile crime over the last several months, and a dramatic decrease in the number of new kids becoming involved. And in fact, the robbery sprees this year compared to what we were experiencing at this point last year, and just robbery overall is half of what it was when we were at this point. I expect the entire police department to be dealing with these issues very urgently as soon as they happen. And I think that's what has been our key to having some success last year. But again, the police department isn't the only component. This is not a police problem. This is a whole of, the criminal justice system problem. This is a whole of community problem. So it is encouraging that we have seen less of these issues. But I absolutely raise the alarm internally with the police department whenever we have something like this happen. And I want to keep the public informed that we are trying to do everything we can to stop these things as they happen.
Are you concerned about an uptick as the weather gets nice?
When we look at crime year over the year, we tend to we compare these months compared to these months last year. So that tends to account for the seasonal variations and fluctuations in crime, and it doesn't necessarily hold true. The beginning of February last year, when it was very cold, was our worst for robbery sprees, and robberies can tick up in the winter months. So yes, I am concerned as the weather gets warm. As we, then come into the summer months with there's kids that have more free time on their hand and less adult supervision, that is always a concern. But the urgency around this issue remains constant.
Is there still an agreement with UMPD or
Yes.
mutual aid agreement? I know that's not quite the right word.
Absolutely.
And
Yep.
were they involved at all in, especially these
Yes.
Dinkytown area?
So we have an agreement with the University of Minnesota Police that helps us patrolling and responding to 911 calls in this area. In addition, we have a late night safety plan that is in place late at night, including the night when this first spree happened, and our officers were present in the neighborhood. But you'll see, we'll give you the list of these robberies. They happened very, very quickly. And even in one case, right after our police officer turned a corner and went down the block, that's when one of the robberies happened, right behind them.
It sounds like these kids aren't afraid of you.
It is, it's been concerning that it seems like some of these kids, at least, don't have respect for their own life, let alone the lives of other people in the community. To hear, and it's not the first time we've heard stories of juveniles pistol whipping victims of crime. And some of the things that have been said to victims is pretty disturbing.
Oh, the victims, I guess, is there anything you can tell us about the victims? Were they?
Yes, I know, so obviously last night some of them were assaulted. None of them sought transport treatment at the hospital, from what I know.
It was male and female.
So two victims, male and female?
There were multiple victims that were
Multiple victims,
assaulted.
but
Yeah.
male and female. It wasn't like they were going after women.
How many victims total? Over the whole?
So, we have Sunday night, 5 armed robberies. And then, yesterday, we had 8 armed robberies where multiple victims were assaulted and pistol whipped, including one carjacking where the victim was thrown to the ground.
And were all these victims alone when they were attacked, or were they?
I don't have that offhand, but we can get that with the list that we're gonna give you.
So is it, well, 13 incidents, but are there more than 13 victims?
Maybe.
Okay, you don't
These
know.
are the ones
Okay.
that we believe are associated with the same set of suspects.
Gotcha, okay.
Yep. And again, there's at least that one incident where we showed you the video, which I think common sense would tell you was an attempt, but for whatever reason, they didn't follow through with trying to rob that individual.
And you're counting that among? No.
The
that's an attack.
victim did not want to file a report, but he did let us know about it.
Chief, you've done like an all hands on deck sort of a thing when you got a carjacked, all of a sudden everybody comes from every precinct and goes and helps out. I mean, is that kind of what your game plan with this all is?
That's the policy. I expect the department to deal with these things as urgent as possible, to recognize these patterns as quickly as possible. It seems last night, at least later in the night, there was effort. There was even a pursuit that matched what they believe was the car that was just taken. But unfortunately, that pursuit, as well as the arrests of juveniles by the sheriff's office that we know are involved in this activity, unfortunately, none of that is actually, we don't believe any of that is actually related to what we were dealing with last night. But it does show all of law enforcement is working together and trying to do what they can to stop this stuff.
Okay, any other questions?
What are some ways the students can protect themselves as some of these robberies may have happened to students and happened in the area?
I know that the university, Department of Public Safety, does put information out. There is the safety center in Dinkytown that is open. They try and tell students to be aware of their surroundings, try not to go late at night by themselves. I know there is, I believe there is like an escort program that is available for students at the university. And the university has very strongly partnered with us to increase police presence. I do think we're doing better this year, and I think the facts demonstrate that. But unfortunately, we are living in a city, and we are living at a time where people do need to be aware of their surroundings and try not to make themselves an easy target. Try not to have, be aware of where they're walking and not be showing valuables openly. Try and go with someone else, all of those kinds of things. And then, of course, always remember, if someone does threaten you to take your property, property can be replaced. Obviously, your life cannot. So these are serious incidents that we're talking about.
Thank you. I will
Thank
do
you,
my best
sir.
to get a press release out or video out.